It's time to rip off the money trauma band-aid and redefine your relationship with money. Join us as we dive into Pamela George's journey from poverty to empowerment and financial freedom. Pamela offers transformative insights in overcoming generational money trauma and achieving financial freedom for women. Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route podcast, where we believe in embracing life's journey with purpose, curiosity, and a bit of potty humor. I'm Jen, a sociologist, someone's uncool mom, and I'm always looking out for that perfect slice of gluten-free rhubarb pie. Every week, I get the joy of sitting down with dreamers and doers who dare to take the road less traveled in pursuit of their own magic. Together, we dive into the inspiring stories of soulful entrepreneurs and visionary leaders who boldly share their beliefs, lessons, and fuck-ups. Excited? So am I. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And now, let's take this conversation off the beaten track. Pamela George is a financial powerhouse, but it wasn't always that way. Born into poverty and raised by an illiterate mother, Pamela George, a first-generation Canadian, now counsels numerous influential Canadian women about the power of financial literacy. She was able to break the cycle of poverty, heal from her childhood money trauma, and today stands proud as a financially empowered woman. Pamela teaches women how to be financially empowered through her signature framework, the 7 pillars of money management. Pamela, hi, welcome to the Scenic Route podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
So I am super excited because today we're talking about something that every one of us has a history with and has a present and a future with. We're going to talk about money in all different kind of ways, probably more of the nasty side of things where we don't really want to deal with. So I'm super excited that I have the sunny Pamela here to walk us through it, to hold our hand, so that we kind of get like an idea of who you are. Can you please briefly walk us through your story? Like how you started, how you got where you today, like the pivotal crossroads, the big moments.
All right. Okay, Jennifer. Well, for me to do that, we have to go back to Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh,
in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Where, little girl Pamela was.
Tell me about little girl Pamela.
Yeah. So my mom, I was the 8th of 9 children.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kudos to your mom.
Yes. And she raised us more or less on her own.
Wow.
Because, so it's 9 of us, 5 from her first marriage, 4 from her second. But the second marriage, she was more or less doing everything on her own. In fact, I remember her saying quite, flippantly, my father was the laziest man she's ever known. So,
okay.
She did it herself. And what she did was support herself. Mm-hmm. And create a lifestyle for her by running. For those of you who know Trinidadian cuisine, she had a roti shop, which is a curry dish. With do you know that? Do you know roti?
Yes.
So she made a living by cooking and selling that in a little shop right aside of the house. And the thing is, she couldn't read or write.
No, wow.
Indian woman.
Business.
Yeah. So she's an Indian woman back in the day that would have never gone to school. She didn't even know the alphabet. But man, she was good with money. And I look back now and I'm like, how did she do inventory? How did she balance cash? Yeah, nothing. I guess she did. I don't know. But she was able to support her family and her lifestyle based on that. And she did that for many, many years. And I remember when I was maybe like about 5 or 6, she met a man because she was, by the time I'm that age, she and my father are no longer together.
Yeah.
She met a man and, as an adult woman looking back, I think it was the first time she probably fell in love because Indian culture back then, her 2 marriages were arranged marriages, right? Mm-hmm. So she would have been, I am thinking around 45 and probably in love for the first time.
The first spring.
Yeah, right? And the thing is, when you're in love as a teenager or a young adult at the first time, what you do, yes, there are consequences, but it's not as big as when you're 45 and you have 9 kids. And
we're too dumb to care.
Right? And she fell in love and she fell in love hard. And so at the time when she met this man, she had owned her house, fully paid for, no mortgage or anything, because she's running this roti shop on her own.
Oh, the story doesn't end well, does it?
No.
Oh, I thought so. I had this
feeling. Yeah. Anyway. And I'm going to get to how I started my business. But what happened was she sold her property and against the advice of all her older children. And she moved in with my stepfather. And it was my mom, my stepfather, myself, and my younger sister. Sorry, my mom, my younger sister, myself. And when she made that move, most of her adult children, they stopped talking to her, and the family was just split. And she used the proceeds of a house to build a house on his property, on his land. And I don't know the exact time. And in my mind, I think it's about a month after the house was built, he literally threw us out in the streets. And I remember, I mean, it's sometimes I wonder how much of it is influenced by Hollywood, but I remember it being a night and it was raining and we're standing out there.
Well, we could definitely turn this into a movie.
Right.
Like,
right?
Dear Lord. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Wow. But we're there. My mother has no education, no money, because everything went in the house, 2 young daughters. And so talking about, I'm like about 7 or 8. My younger sister is 5 years younger than me. And we're there and nowhere to go. No halfway house, nothing like that. So I remember my mother going and asking neighbors if we can stay there. And that was our life for many, many, many years. Spend 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here. And I remember the longest we ever stayed anywhere was 6 months, and that was in somebody's garage. And a garage in Trinidad and Tobago at the time is very different from a garage we know now in a first world country. Let me just say that.
I kind of, yeah.
Right?
I believe
struggle. It was a struggle, and I was able to. The older I got, the more I became aware of what was happening and why it happened. My mom died when I was 19, and I suddenly became the primary caregiver of my younger sister, who would have been 14. So I had to grow up pretty fast. In fact, by the time I was about 15 or 16, my mom got very sick, the stress and the heartbreak. And she died at 60, a very old woman, an old 60. And so I had to grow up pretty fast.
Yeah.
And rough. It was tough. When you're poor, somehow the abuse just seems to come easier and faster towards you. The abuse, the violence, the judgment, the harassment. And that's what we were exposed to, right? It just came to us no matter how hard it felt, no matter
it's like
how
that.
hard it tried.
I get that. Like, this is why so this is where the sociologist comes in me. Like, you need to talk about the social implications of poverty, right? Like, it's like as money is creating a barrier against harassment and then judgment and false accusations and all these sorts of things.
All types of abuse. Yes.
Yeah.
And somehow the abusers and the harassers feel it's okay to do that because you're worthless.
You're under them on the ladder, whatever that means.
Yeah. And I struggled. I suffered a lot. But, I have this beautiful resilient spirit that I'm so proud of and so happy and grateful that I have it.
You're a gorgeous sunshine.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just there like,
thank you. Thank you. But I'll tell you this, having struggled like that, spending so many years houseless, I vowed I would not follow the same fate as my mother. So that involved me knowing, but what does that mean? If I don't want to follow the same fate as my mother, what did she do? And
it was her like mistake, if you want to say like that.
It's mistake. It was mistake, and that was hard because I loved my mother, right? And then when I start to examine and go deep and reflect on what happened, that love, while it was still there, I got angry. And I went through all the emotions of and then eventually I accepted it. But I'm like, okay, so I need to not do this. I need to protect myself and not do this. And, I realized it started with education. So I started to learn a little bit about money. The thing is, you're poor and you're struggling. You don't have mentors. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have anybody willing to help me do anything. But I have this.
And you're also, I assume you also do not have a lot of mental and emotional capacity to learn, right? It's not on the forefront on your mind because you're struggling just to get by.
Yeah, survival mode. When you're in survival, you don't have capacity for that. But you know what? I was able to somehow do it. And I was able to claw myself and my sister out of poverty. We were able to get out of that, and I was able to finish school. So was my sister, and we got little jobs here and there. And eventually, every job was better than the one before, right?
Yeah.
And
slow and steady.
Slow and steady, exactly. And the every time I got a better job, I always had this influence, this thing where, okay, gotta learn, because I didn't learn so much. There was so much I didn't learn in my teenage years and early 20s because I was surviving, right? So, and a big part of that learning was financial literacy. Because I so didn't want to end up like my mother, because I saw what she did and how it affected like 4 generations. Siblings, stuff like my younger sister and I, we were with my mother, but there were other children and they had children, and there's this big rift right now, even now, right, with the siblings and their children and so forth. So, I just wanted to make sure that didn't happen to me, and I just educated myself. Very early o'clock in the game, I came across the concept of money mindset, and I started to do some work. It started with forgiveness, forgiving my mother, forgiving myself, because I blamed myself for a lot of stuff.
And especially like forgiving your mom's, let's call him abuser, because he was abusing her.
Oh, he was, without any doubt. Yeah.
So also like, I mean, I don't know. I always feel so bad when like good people like your mother, right? Like good to a fault, right? Are taken advantage of just for being good people, like good-hearted people. Yeah, you can call them naive and whatever, and it's always wise to, I don't know, not do, I don't know, silly things, but you should never be in a position to kind of like always double check, I feel. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. She was a good woman. I get that. He was a mean man. I lived there for a few years, and I said, I know what it's like to live with the devil. That's what I say. There is a poem by someone, a refugee. I think she was from Iran or Iraq, one of those countries. And she wrote a poem, and she said, when you leave home when home is the mouth of a shark. And I still remember that. Right. I'd prefer to be homeless and houseless than go back and live with that devil, as I call him. Right. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I was able to just get myself out of this poverty, not just the physical poverty, but the poverty mindset. And I came up with this system that worked for me. And I got to a place where I was happy where I am. I felt like I had, I was healing. And just so you know, the healing is still happening. Right? But it's never done.
Thing, right? Like I don't know, I always like, that's what I tell my clients when they're like, aren't we like done with this shit? And I'm like, well, you're never done. Well, you'll be done when you are done. Yes. Like quite literally.
Yes.
On your last day, you'll be done, right?
That's when you're done.
Yeah, that's when you're done, right?
Yeah.
Because there will always be, it's kind of like this never-ending Tower of Babel. There's always another floor up. And regardless where you're at in your business or in your personal life, like there will always be more.
Yes. Yeah.
And but you need to flip it to see the beauty of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And then so, one thing led to another. I moved to Canada, and got myself a job. I was working at a college in financial aid. And I'm realizing, coming from Trinidad and Tobago,
Going to snowy Canada.
Going to snowy Canada, but Canada is affluent by and large. I mean, for the most part, Canada is an affluent country. I live in Canada, in Ottawa, Canada, which is the city. It's the capital of Canada. It's the seat of government, right? And it's, I would say an affluent city. But then working with students in financial aid, I'm realizing there's so many parents couldn't afford to get a student loan because their credit was trash, or they had so much debt, so much credit card debt, and that type of thing. And that made me curious. And it reminded me of, okay, what my mom went through and what we went through. And I'm seeing folks now going into, money problems. And it reminded me of the situation with my mother. And over the years, I'm like, you know what? I feel women in particular need help, and I could help them because I am a woman who clawed my way out of poverty.
Oh, God, yes. I mean,
right? And I felt if only from experience, I felt I could have helped other women. But what I did, I went and I got accredited. I'm now an accredited financial counselor. And I've upgraded my skills. I've become accredited and qualified that I can counsel anybody, but I choose to work with women and show them, listen, you can be struggling with money, but there's a way out of this. And it's not just, while it's very important, the numbers, the dollars and cents, that's very, very important. You need to tie that in with what I call trauma-informed money mindset. You need to bring in those two together, right? And that's what I do. I believe that's my unique value proposition.
Yes. Yeah. Like bracket.
So I'll tell you,
branding lesson incoming.
Yes. So I'll tell you, I call it a trivector. So what it is, there's my story, which is there for inspiration.
Yeah.
There's the numbers and the dollars and cents that's there for the financial literacy. And then there's the trauma-informed money mindset that's there for the healing. And that is what I call the trivector. And that's what I do. My story is an integral part of my work because I have lived it.
Yes.
I have lived it. So, and not just lived poverty, I've lived through a divorce. I have gone through it all. And as a business owner, I'm going through it now. You know how it is. The cash flow situation, sometimes, especially during COVID. So, no, that's what I do now. I work with women. And, my tagline is I work with women who are ready to change their relationship with money, so they can live the life that they really want to live. Not the life they're supposed to live, not the life that they're living, but the life that they really want to live. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, first off, thank you so much for sharing your story truthfully. And like branding lesson incoming. Right? Like there's always so much beauty in your story. And it doesn't, like, sometimes people, like, when I talk to my clients, they're like, well, but I never, like, nothing big happened to me, I'm like, well, I don't know. Do you wish something bad to happen to you? Like,
we all have a story.
We all have a story. We all have trauma. And trauma is not, there's no, like, oh, I have bigger trauma than you do. Like, it's not competition. When your body releases a trauma response, it doesn't matter. It was big to you, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
And as said, right, like back to kind of like more like the branding business lens. Yes, it's not a prerequisite to have your story when you're helping people doing budgets and planning for their retirement. But just if you think of working with someone and they have their story, this upbringing, and you're in the same boat. I don't know. I always rather navigate towards those people. I kind of like, oh, they get me.
Yes.
Right. And yes, also other people can get you, but I don't know. I always feel it's different.
Yeah. I feel that. So, we all talk in business, we talk about, our ideal clients, right? And we want to zero in on them. I feel that the people who can relate to my story have similar stories. And they're the ones who come to me, and they make the perfect clients.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. And if my story inspires someone, that tends to be what pulls them into me.
Yeah.
And then there's just this deeper connection, and the work, although it could be hard work at times, it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the differentiator, right? Like that's the value driver, right? The inspiration, oh, wow, if she did it, I can do it too.
Yes.
I mean, because they are a shit ton of people who can do your accounting. There are a shit ton of people who can do your branding. Like, we're all like, let's be real, that's cool. But the value driver, inspiration to me is such a big value driver. If you're like, wow, okay, every time I talk to this person, I feel like lit up. I'm so excited. I'm like ready to go into action mode. That feeling, if you get that with someone, you can't buy that. Like you can't. No.
Yeah. And I never used to tell my story, So I'm in business 5 years now. And I think the first 2 years, even 2.5 years, I didn't tell that story that I just told to everybody who is listening to this podcast right now. They have an idea. Pamela's from Trinidad. She had a tough, young life,
but not
the detail that I go into. But I started doing that, I think sometime 2020 when, as an entrepreneur, we wear so many hats. So I guess I was wearing my marketing hat that day. And I started doing research and, I started to read, and then one thing led to another, books and etc. And I realized, wait a minute, that's my story. I think it started with Simon Sinek. What's your why? I think I saw the TED Talk.
Yeah. That's a good way into things for sure. Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I need to know my why. Of course, I know my why, but do other people know my why? And that's when I really started to, first of all, embrace my story for what it is.
Yeah.
And then comfortably enough to share it. Yeah. So it's now on my website. I don't hold back that I grew up in poverty and I was, abused and all of that. I now, I wear it as a badge of honor. Yeah.
Yeah. There's really something about that, right? It's not, you can still decide which parts to keep private, right? Like it's not, you don't create relatability through kind of like a share it all type of an approach. Yep. That's not the case, but it's just really, I always kind of like think of like anyone who is listening is, I know, I go out on a limb, is either solopreneur wanting to become a solo entrepreneur or has like a small team. And so you're not like a big international corporation. So do actually what you like, play your strength, play your aces. That's actually doing shit that doesn't scale. Like, actually go back to, hey, this is me. This is what I do. And like, this is the trauma I had. And this is how I healed from it.
Yes. And I think women in particular, we have a unique way of doing that. I was talking to a lady a couple of weeks ago, and her story, she started a business around her story, which was, she was married, abusive relationship. And she spent 3 years trying to get out of the marriage and putting an exit plan into place. It took her 3 years, saving money, doing what she had to do quietly while being abused. And eventually she left. And after a few years, she has this really successful business now in the US. But it just, when you're really willing to take your story, there's so many people now with her that they're so drawn to her, because what she basically does is help them with an exit plan when they're in a troubled relationship like that. And that's her business, right? And she's open about what she does. And of course, women who are in a similar situation are drawn to her and they come to her, she helps them and benefit in all the ways that she can help them. So yeah, our story is, I feel, is our biggest asset as business owners.
That is, I mean, especially this goes for all service providers. You are providing the service.
Yes.
you are your business biggest asset.
Right. Yep.
All of you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, biggest asset. Yes. Say it again.
yes. I mean, like the good things and the shitty things and the traumas and like all of it. So bring it to the table.
Yes.
Right. And I feel, was there some part of you I'm curious, where you shared, in 2020, you said you started to share it more openly. Was that also part of your healing process?
Yes. Yes, it was. Not just the actual words, sharing it like that, but having people hear me and come to me with love and affection and understanding and empathy. That helps with my healing. Yeah. You see, what
so
happened...
it was more about you had to become a version of you that allowed this empathy and affection flow towards you.
Yes, yes. Yep. And, you earlier on in the podcast, you said, I'm sunshine. I'm so bubbly and bright. That's who I am. So I think people didn't expect such a sad story, to be honest. Folks who didn't know me didn't expect such a sad story. So there was this big impact and shock, I think. So, and they'd write me or, take me out for coffee and just wanted Pam.
Yeah, just be nice.
Yeah, right. And that was really nice. And being open to accepting that and hearing that was very healing for me. Yes.
Wow. So how are you now supporting women healing from, let's go, I'd say most of the women who come see you because they have some sort of intense money situation or money trauma going on.
So they usually start following me. And I'll tell you, clients usually follow me for like a minimum of 6 months before they even like a post or even say hello.
So to all the shadow lurkers out there, we know what you're doing.
Yes, right? I wouldn't even know. And then they'll book a call and I'll be like, so how did you hear about me? Oh, I've been following you for 6, 7 months, 2 years, whatever.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you have such a long lead up time?
Folks are ashamed of their money situation. They want to know if I can really help them. Am I trustworthy? Like, who is this woman? Who is she talking about all of this? Let me get to know. It's a very vulnerable thing, right? Money and that
and shame,
and shame, right? So they do that, and when they feel comfortable enough, they reach out to me, and they tend to reach out to me because, well, a few things. But they're usually struggling with consumer debt. If they have no debt, they are struggling with a budget. And while they're meeting their everyday expenses, they know they're not maximizing that. They know they could do so much better. Like, I work for $150,000.
Well, at the end of the month, I have like a penny left. So
exactly. And that situation will only go on for so long, and then they'll start going into debt again, right? So there's that. There are some women,
it's kind of like as if you can't hold, so you can get into kind of like the capacity of receiving more money, but you cannot hold it.
Yes,
or sustain it.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So it's usually that. Some of them just getting by because, they landed a really good job and they just doing what they think they should do, but they know that they don't understand what they're doing and they know that's not sustainable. So they reach out for help. But I'll tell you, they all know inherently, they all know that it's not just the dollars and cents. It's not the numbers alone. They all know they have some history with money. And we all have a money story. They all know that there's some story, some money mindset issues going on with money. So they come to me because they know I can help them with both. And of course, they would have heard about my story. So they relate to it. So that's why they come to me. I think when they come to me, they don't expect to go as deep as we go.
That goes for my clients too. They're always kind of like, oh, now I'm scared. Well, you better be.
So we go, and my work is gentle, but we like I always say, you have $50,000 in credit card debt. I don't yes, we get you on a plan to pay down that debt, sure. But if we don't fix the root cause of that, you're going to end up in debt again.
Yeah. It's
right?
like dieting, right? Like it just, you have yo-yo debt, then you have yo-yo weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we figure out what the problem is, like what is the root cause of this? During the pandemic, so overwhelm was always an issue, but what
for consumer debt or for
just life, overwhelming life.
Yeah.
Right? That was something that
it's called adulthood, Pamela. It's called adulthood.
It was always there, but there would be a lot of well, I'm in a shitty marriage and that's causing it, or some other thing, some childhood stuff that's causing it. What I'm seeing now, the overwhelm is out there. It's like that's the first thing that is really like superseding all the other stuff. There's so much overwhelm happening that women are just driving themselves crazy.
Yeah, or just shutting down. Like, no, I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
not even. Yeah,
not even. Exactly. So I am too tired and I'm too busy to cook. So we just order food. Well, you order food too many times and eventually you can't afford it. Right. But then for you to sit down and plan the meals and go grocery shopping, you
don't have the capacity to do it.
You don't have the capacity. Exactly. And so we have, and they're so busy and they don't have the capacity.
Sounds like a really bad cycle.
It is a bad cycle. So when I work with my clients, I'm like, let's take a pause. Let's take a pause and see what your life could look at like without doing two jobs. Because you see, the thing is, we feel that if we have money trouble, the best thing or the thing to do is to just get a second job or increase your income.
Have more, exactly, like increase the income, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Most people say you have two sides to come at this, either increase income or cut spending.
Yeah, I say both. It's both. Yeah. It's both. But if you have a deficit of $1,000 in your budget, I don't expect you to cut $1,000. Neither do I expect you to bring in an additional $1,000 in income. But if you don't know what you're doing, you think that you need to bring in $1,000. And then you're looking at not having, you're working how many hours a week now? Have no time for the kids, have no time to plan your meals, no time to shop in the grocery for the food. And then it's just like this, like you say, it's like this revolving door, just in, out, catch-22.
Yeah, we're not even talking about like health tolls. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. And then your kids are growing up now without you spending so much time with them. They're seeing that money just stresses you out. Imagine the money lesson you're giving them. Right. They are seeing that money is stressful. You got to work hard for money.
Yeah. You got to work for it. Money is stressful. Money is hard work. Money is everything you don't want, basically.
And you are creating their mindset for them that they grow up and they just repeat the cycle that they saw their parents live. So
how do you break the cycle?
Behavior. We got to change our behavior. And to change our behavior, we need to do a bit of money mindset work. Together with, because we could do all the money mindset work and can't balance the budget. It's not going to make sense.
No, it's
likewise,
right?
Yeah. As we balance the budget and we don't fix your scarcity mindset, then
that's the thing where a lot of the also kind of like all these like I don't know attraction work, mood visualization board, mood board, things fall short.
Yeah,
you can do all the affirmations you want if you don't have the capacity to hold them and to execute on them. Like you can say affirmations until until you fall down in your grave. Like it's not.
Yeah. I mean, and I said that to a new client I had last week, and she is overspending by $2,000. And she was telling me that every morning she says a money mantra. She heard this from some guru in money, right?
Oh, I love the gurus.
Yes. And she's like, I'm saying my money mantra. I have it written on my...
I do all the things, but why am I overspending?
Yeah. Right?
What did you tell her?
He said, let's look at your budget. Let's leave the mantra aside. Let's look at your budget. And we were able to bring it down. We got it to a place where she can now supplement her income with a couple $100. And yeah, that's what we had to do. I had to see where the budget was and what was happening. I mean, spending $2,000, close to $2,000 in takeout. Come on. We got to fix that first, right? And it's not fixed completely yet, but she knows what.
Yeah, but you're kind of like going to, but also like, as I said, like going to the root, kind of like the root cause of the thing. Like, why are you actually spending, I don't know. I mean, take out money, and it's always kind of like, it seems like an easy enough thing to answer superficially, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I remember when I was in corporate, I mean, I don't know. I have still months where I'm really not that good with money, but I know why it's happening.
Yes.
So at least like, okay. Yeah. I mean, okay.
And you try to course correct the next month. That's the thing.
Yes. Right. Like I know for me personally, I know because I'm dealing with chronic pain and I feel so powerless when I have kind of like a flare. Money or food are the things I can control. So that's when I have the tendency to overspend because I can control, whereas other things I cannot. So then I can course correct the next month. I probably we're gonna go to the root cause of this.
Yeah. I did not already struggle.
And I'm like, well, it's not struggle. Like I'm not in debt or anything, right? Like,
but no, I was talking about. I didn't realize you struggle with chronic pain because I do as well.
Oh,
I do as well.
What are you struggling with?
Yeah,
who is struggling more?
I have been diagnosed with MS.
Oh,
in late 2017. Yeah,
2017. How are you keeping up with MS?
What I get is severe chronic pain. All the time. Like I'm in pain right now. For the past hour that I've been giggling and laughing and stuff, I'm in pain, right?
Badge of honor, sister. Me too.
Yeah. And I go to bed, take a painkiller. I wake up at 2, 3 in the morning. Guess what? It's the pain that wakes me up, right? And that's what it is. So it's pain and fatigue. I'm extremely tired, which is why I work in the morning, and by 1 or 2 o'clock, I'm wrapping up to go home. Because I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
But I mean, it's beautiful that you structured your business in a way to suit you, to suit your needs, right? Like that's ultimately what we're doing. Like this is why we're doing all of this, right? To be like, nope, not today, Satan.
Yeah,
I'm going.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you have chronic pain. I know the feeling. So.
Yeah.
Big hugs.
Yeah, you win. Yeah, you win the card with MS. You play the choke. No, but I suffer from endometriosis and adenomyosis, which is the endometriosis in the uterus.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So every month there are a couple of bad periods, as well as like IBS and and celiacs. But hey, like,
listen, we got this. We got this.
No problem. But right, like, I mean, going back to that, I know. That's where I'm like, oh, okay. We're needing to course correct, right? But and it took me a while to actually realize that, right? Because I don't know, it usually it's more of the superficial side when you're like, oh, why you're spending $2,000 on takeout? And you're probably, I don't know. Answer is like, oh, I was too busy.
Well, were you too busy? Well, I needed to make more money. Why you needed to make more money? And we just go deep and deep. But I'll tell you this. A lot of people think that when they come to me, I'll be like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this.
Yeah.
No. I have a process that I call value-based budgeting. We do an exercise where we figure out what your values are. What are your top core values, top 3 core values? And we ensure that that is represented and reflected in your budget.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say you say to me, Pam, I have chronic pain and 4 times a month, I can't cook. I can't do anything. We need to find money in that budget where those days
are covered.
And we work together to find that. And that's how I work with my clients and budget. And we work it you see, a budget is more than, what comes in and what goes out and making sure those numbers match. We go deep into that and we design a budget that really suits your lifestyle.
Yeah. Especially because otherwise it's, I don't know, I go back to like the dieting thing because I feel like there's so many similarities. I don't know. everyone probably, at least who grew up in like the 90s with like the visual role models of women in the 90s. Thank you. Has some sort of like eating story, like food story as well. And like if you go on a crash diet and you're like, no, not eating anything, just have my water and like, I don't know, my crackers. And the same probably goes with food, with budgeting, right? If you're like, oh, I'm not spending any money, nothing at all, like just gonna live on ramen noodles. Like you can maybe do it for a week or two. Maybe you can push yourself to a month, whatever, but you all gonna crash and burn. Right? Like that's why I really like the valued approach of like, hey, let's look at value-based and
value-based budgeting. And we also talk about topics such as consumerism and overconsumption and capitalism and how that shows up in our lives, whether we against capitalism or not. That comes in. We're living in a world.
We are all against capitalism because seriously, who is profiting from the system? I bet it's not you and I. It's not anyone who's listening right now.
Right?
So, no.
Yeah. So
unless like Jeff Bezos is listening, then like, okay, cool. You are profiting. You are profiting from that. Everyone else is not.
But no, it's budgeting, at least the way I do it, is completely different. It's not just an Excel spreadsheet. It's so much more. You know, I would love to work with you. Oh my God, just hearing what you do. And I'm like, oh, bring it on.
Yes, we do that. And I feel seriously like, I don't know, I should look up your website, but kind of like that, not just the Excel spreadsheet. We have to do something with the messaging. This is gold. We have to do something there. This is gold.
I'm open to suggestions. Go for it.
Yeah, there is something. I'm not 100% there yet, but there is something because no one actually likes Excel spreadsheets.
Exactly.
There are a few people who do, and I love you, but most of us do not.
Especially when it comes to budget. A budget is not just numbers. A budget is your goals and your dreams and your
I always explain that
aspirations.
Like, it's more than the sums of its parts, right? Like it's a different entity.
Yes.
But I'm curious again, like you said you healed your own money trauma. Yeah, we kind of like circle a bit back because I'm sure a lot of people are now like, oh yeah, I like are hearing themselves and the stories you've shared, like, or in your client examples of like consumer debt, like anyone who's listening from the US, also like college debt, a huge issue. Not here in Europe, luckily. I mean, consumer debt, like we're recording this today on Black Friday of all days. So, I mean, consumer debt.
Yes.
And it's also kind of like, I know, I shared with you, like I had a client who had a good launch. And it was the first time she had like this big influx of money in a short period of time. And I don't know, a third of that period, it was gone again. Yeah. Like, those are all kind of like, how do we, like, if they're all trauma based, like the root of all of those are traumas. And I know we already said there are like a gazillion of traumas and there's no like one size fits all. But how can we start healing from those traumas?
Okay, so my answer is going to be like a 3-part answer. So get ready. I'll answer what I did to heal my trauma. So my trauma started with being angry with my mother for putting us through this. All right. But when I was able to realize that she just did the best with what she had. An old Indian woman back in the 1970s, right? And no education. Yes. And her parents would have been immigrant, indentured workers from India, right? So no education there either. And what money stories would have been passed on to her? What generational, I don't like to use the word curse, but what generational stuff would have been passed on to her through lessons and DNA and all of that, right? And then what they would have had. So the minute I started to look outside of me and then outside of my mother and then my grandparents and their parents, etc., I realized that it's not their fault. It's not their fault. And what I inherited, it's just, I inherited it. Nobody was like, I am going to pass this on to Pamela George. No.
I'm just gonna screw with Pamela.
Yeah, I could have.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, right?
yeah.
So I realized that, and that is when the forgiveness for my mother started, and the forgiveness for my line, my generational line that came before me. That was very, what's the word? Cathartic is the word, I think.
Cathartic, yes.
Yeah.
It is. It is the word, and yes, this process is cathartic.
Yeah. And so forgiving her was like the pivotal point. And then there was forgiving me for being angry with her and all of that. And around that time, I realized that this is a little bit too big for me to handle myself, because I've always been an introspective person. So I was doing this by myself, reading books, journaling and stuff. And I realized, okay, this is a little too much for me to handle. Yeah. And I would have been like in my early 30s at the time. And that's when I sought therapy. So I went to therapy, and I tried different therapists. I'll try somebody for a year and I can feel, okay, the work together is done. Now I need to go for a different type of therapy, right?
Yeah, and absolutely.
I did different types of talk therapy. I did cognitive something it's called. I can't remember. I did that. I did energy work as well. I did lots and lots of work to really heal from that. And I'm still doing work, but that's how it's done. So when I work with my clients, and we just touch the surface with a little bit of money trauma and trauma-informed money mindset, I always say to them, we are just doing the surface work here to get you aware of how it's affecting your money. And my advice is always go get a therapy session somewhere. I always have referrals that I can send them, because the work is only just starting with me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist. I'm a financial counselor, and I do focus on trauma-informed money mindset. But usually we do enough work where we can affect the budget and affect the debt and affect money, right? But anything deeper than that, they need to go and get full-fledged therapy and get some work done. So there's that. There was a second part to your question. So that's how I feel I am healing. And I will say healing, not healed, from my money trauma and from what happened to me. Was there a second part of your question? I feel...
No. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just kind of want to circle back on two things. One is like kudos to you for trying out different shit, right? Like, no, but seriously, like, I mean, I some people are like, oh yeah, like, yeah, I tried that, like, I tried journaling, it wasn't for me. Yeah, that's cool. Like, journaling doesn't do shit for me. Like, I'm not a writing person. I'm a talking out loud person. That's probably why no one was surprised I have a podcast. But
yes,
I was late to the party. But like, just try out different things and see how it makes you feel, right? Like, you don't know beforehand if, I don't know, what kind of therapy will release something, right? I mean, kind of like she did sound healing. She was like, nah.
I love sound healing.
What's that?
I love it. Yeah.
What? No.
Love it.
Like, and she was like, I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
You just don't know. Just try different things. So I love that. Like, just having this like explorer, playful mindset of like, I just gotta try. I mean,
I just didn't
no harm done.
Yeah. I knew I didn't want to stay where I was, right? I didn't want to stay where I was. And I want to show up as my best self for those I love. And I feel showing up where everything is a trigger for me is not fair to the folks around me, right? And if you
also fair to you, because if you're in a triggered state, you're not feeling well.
Exactly. So I wanted to heal from that. And remember, I saw what stress and unhealed trauma, unaddressed trauma did to my mother. I didn't want that for myself. And that in itself is a session, is a therapy session, because normally, you'll be like, oh, I want to be the kind of mom my mom was. Or I want to be the hard worker that my mom was. So you use your mom as some kind of role model. All my life, it was, how do I not be like my mom?
Yeah.
So that in itself was a few therapy sessions. Well,
yes. And this could lead into another whole new episode of like, if you don't want to be like your mother, and to quite a high percentage, I agree. I also do not want to be like my mother. ultimately will come to the question of, okay, how will you mother yourself?
Yes. And I had to learn how to do that. And as a side note, there is a blog on my website and the title is Got Money Problems? Let's talk about your mother.
Yeah, that should also be more prominently placed on your website.
Yeah. Girl, I will take any suggestions you have.
I don't know. Yes, oh my God. Yeah. Or yeah, it's like, thanks, mom. Thanks, dad.
Yeah.
No, but then it again brings me to what you said before. And I think this is so beautiful and worth noting and circling back. We're now like joking and saying, thanks, mom, thanks, dad. But it's actually kind of like the relief, what you said about you have to release the anger and come into forgiveness by realizing they did the best they could. Mm-hmm. And I had to go through that for my own set of parents too, where I was like, okay, I know where they came from and they did so much. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful for that. And then, for me, the hard stone was to swallow was like, okay, if we're going to say everyone is like they're trying the best they could. Mm-hmm. So everyone is trying the best they could.
Yes.
That means now that's the real kicker. You are also doing the best you could.
Yes.
And still, we look back at Jen from last year, at Pamela from 2 years ago, and often crap on ourselves.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I just want to say something. You started to talk about your parents and we're talking about mothers. And I just felt the need to pull my crystal and hold it in my hands.
What is this kind of, is it amethyst or what is
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is the meaning of the amethyst?
I do not know.
Okay,
I do not know, but I'll tell you this.
Crystals, and because I just like them, they're pretty.
Yeah.
But I have no idea.
No, I actually, one of my, so I intend to learn more about them in the new year.
Yeah.
But I love having crystals around me. But we were talking about that mother energy, and I just felt the need to pick it up, and like it was soothing to me. Mm-hmm. So even after all these years, there is still obviously something in me that felt it needed soothing while we were talking about this, because I grabbed my crystal.
Yeah. And it's
no.
So, okay. So I have to be fair. I do not pretend I am smarter than I am, although I'm pretty fucking smart. I just Googled, random Google search, amethyst, crystal, meaning.
Yeah.
You know what came up?
Tell me.
Amethyst apparently is the best crystal for mothers.
No way.
Yeah. I'm like, seriously? You can tell me about all the woo-woo things and you don't have to believe anything. That's cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Sometimes you cannot make this shit up.
Wow. And I have other crystals here.
And this is a natural stress reliever. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Which comes to mind and neutralizes negative energy.
Wow. That's why I'm holding it in my hand now.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Seriously, you cannot make this up. So see, those nudges, right? Those are the things that can help us heal. And whenever you have like a little nudge like this, go execute.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your business or holding a crystal, which is just go execute on it. What you say?
Oh my God. I say follow your gut. I think a lot of women, we have been taught to not follow that, not give into it, not give into our feminine powers. I believe our feminine power is powerful if we would just listen and dive into it, right? Of course, everything in balance, but in the,
that's what we said. We have the spreadsheets and we have the thing, right? Like, work with me. Like, my clients know they have the Google Analytics data and I have the woo. So I'm like, let me pull up your Google Analytics data and then let me pull a tarot card. Just see where we're at, right? Like, it's not this or that. Let's just go, like, I don't know. I hate those dualities and like
one or the other. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just go for and. We always go for and.
Mm-hmm. I think if we can just lean in a little more to our feminine, our, whatever woo we feel we call to, I think incorporating that with the facts and the logic and the numbers, it can really take us places.
Yes. Ooh. That's a really lovely word. lovely sentiments to also end our podcast, sadly, because I feel like we could go for another hour.
Yeah, I know.
We don't have stamina. So tell us, like, where can people find you online? Where do you hang out? I know you host a money date. Do you want to tell me something about it?
Yeah, it's the third Wednesday of every month from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm in Canada, Ottawa, Canada. So it's every third Wednesday, 1 to 2, and it's free. I do an Eventbrite event, free event, and it's usually on all my social media, or you just do a search for me, it will show up. So there's that, and I invite everybody. What we do, we have about the first 15 minutes where I do a mini lesson, just a mini lesson, and then we spend 30 minutes getting shit done. You know, the bills you don't want to pay, or the taxes you don't want to look at, the taxes, whatever it is. We keep the camera on, we go on mute, and we do our shit.
Yeah, and I like that. Yeah. I did a lot of co-working like that during the pandemic.
Right. So it's similar to that. And then at about 10 minutes to the hour, we wrap up and there's some accountability. Okay, tell us, what did you do? What didn't you do? I saw you on the phone while we should have been working. What's going on with that? That type of thing.
Where are you talking to your accountant? I hope you say yes.
I know. So that's what I do, the money date, the third Wednesday of every month. And I'm also, I'm launching a group, and it's what I call the Prosperity Circle. And it starts on January 10th. It's 6 months where we meet every other week and we go over my signature system. We cover, and it's called the 7 Pillars of Money Management. So registration is now open for that. I don't just take anybody blindly. You need to book a call with me.
Yeah, so application based.
Yeah. You book a call with me, and we need to see if we're a good fit, but 2, I need to talk to you to figure out if you're ready for this.
Yeah. Right.
So if that's something you want to do, you can do that. But my website, and my website is, my website is simple. It's sandollar.co, not com, not CA, but co. I'm all hip, right? It's the latest.
Yes, you're on the We're going to link it in the show notes as well. So yes, that's amazing. Thank you.
I
love the money day.
So much laughter. Oh my gosh.
That's the right. Like, you come for the knowledge, you stay for the entertainment.
There you go.
And I have one more question before I let you go, because I'm curious and always need new materials. What book are you currently reading? Or audiobook, whatever. Like,
no. I love to read. I have my my Kobo e-reader, and I am reading Yoga Bitch.
Okay. What is that about?
Yoga Bitch. I'm now like on page 5, and it's this woman who is talking about her journey. Smoking and transcendence, I believe, is what.
I love it.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So it's Yoga Bitch. I recommend it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, Pamela, it was an absolute blast to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. All love.
Thank you. Right back at you, girl. Right back at you. Thank you.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another journey together on the Scenic Route podcast. Thank you for spending time with us. Curious for more stories or in search of the resources mentioned in today's episode? Visit us at scenicroutepodcast.com for everything you need. And if you're ready to embrace your scenic route, I've got something special for you. Step off the beaten path with my Scenic Route affirmation card deck. It's crafted for those moments when you're seeking courage, yearning to trust your inner voice, and eager to carve out a path authentically, unmistakably yours. Pick your Scenic Route affirmation today and let it support you. Excited about where your journey might lead? I certainly am. Remember, the Scenic Route is not just about a destination, but the experiences, learnings, and joy we discover along the way. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the Scenic Route again.